What's up, world? This is Raw with Live Loud coming at you guys again with another episode of Say It Loud. These stories have been getting so much more and more powerful. The intimacy, the level of depth that I've been getting in with my guests, just been mind-blowing. And it's been such an honor to come to you guys Monday through Friday to just share their story. So today I'm very, very honored to have my boy, Jose. What's up, Jose? Thank you so much for jumping on today, man.
No, thank you for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
So Jose and I met about 3 years ago on this platform for like coaching and development. And we've been able to stay in relationships since, though we dip in the distance and we get busy in our own worlds, man, that we could come back together and just collab and talk and see. I know we're far from done. So why don't you just jump in and tell people who you are and what you do?
Well, my name is Jose Belen, and what I do is I try to raise awareness to a cause that is at epidemic proportions. And I'm a combat veteran that was part of the initial invasion into Iraq in the spring of 2003. Came home in 2005. I finished 3 years of active duty service. And at that time, I began a battle with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTS, depending on how you view it, which is causing over 8,000 veteran suicides a year. I myself was nearly one of those veterans, nearly took my life a number of times since coming home from service. And a lot of that has to do with the things that we experience in combat. Lost my best friend, my lieutenant, a few days before Christmas in the spring of 2003. Witnessed, children die in front of me and all those things that a warfighter goes through. And the issue is for us when we come back to civilian life is what do we do with all those things? You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't, erase those things. So for a lot of soldiers and veterans, we're haunted by our experiences downrange. So I'm on a war path to end veteran suicide, but beyond that, on a mission to help those who are suffering in silence, who yet don't have the inner strength to say, you know what, I'm going through something, but they're ashamed of it. So I've dedicated my life from here until I give my last breath to end veteran suicide, but also to eliminate the stigma against mental health and things that we're suffering in silence with.
Yeah, man, I can't thank you enough, bro, for what you do, because we hear that phrase, we are our own worst enemy, right? And we are the person that always stands in our way or sabotage. We struggle most with our relationship with ourselves. That's the main thing that stands between us and creating the life that we really want to live. And right. I can't even begin to imagine the circumstances that you had to live through and what you carry. So aside from the everyday person that hasn't experienced that level of trauma, it's already hard enough to interact and build on with yourself with leadership, let alone having all that on top of it. And you still standing here today, taking a stand for creating that motion, creating the change where it's not heard of. We don't hear about that so often enough at all. I remember when you first told me there are 22 veterans who take their life a day. I was just mind blown of 22 lives, people, families that are impacted every single day. Where is the support? And so I thank you for being that support out in the world, man.
Well, no, it's we're in a place right now where we all need to work together. So the thank you from my end extends your way because you're allowing me to put a voice to the voiceless, right? To those who are suffering right now as we have this interview, who unfortunately will take their lives in this hour, in the next hour, that there's folks that have the strength, but they don't believe in themselves, but we believe in them. I believe in them. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Yeah, man, thank you so much, man. That really touches on a bit. I'll get into my story another time. One of the things that really inspired me to launch LiveLOUD is that right now, just imagining that you said that someone might take their life within the next hour, it's chilling, man. And so, I thank you for who you are, and I look forward to us creating some magic because it gets to happen. So being that Say It Loud is really about telling those stories, man. You have such an incredible story and that what led you here. So please dive right in. What moments in your life that you really experienced that supported you, not just enduring this experience, but choosing to take a stand into leadership?
Absolutely. One thing that's very important to note that the veteran, there's a unwritten code. We don't talk about what we go through in combat. We don't express, it's just unwritten. And when I came home from service, I had a friend of the family who's a Vietnam veteran. And he said, Jose, please promise me that you'll talk about it. He said, I kept it here for 30 years and look at me. went through alcoholism, drugs, like all that stuff. And I never understood it. I didn't understand it at that moment, because you got to think, I enlisted, right? At 19 years old, I made the choice and said, you know what? I knew that if I went to college, I wasn't disciplined enough to stay in college. You know what I mean? So for me, making that choice and giving that oath was my path, to my future. So once you become a soldier, and for example, in basic training, what was taught to us, Army Corps values, leadership, loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage, right? That's the acronym for it. That's at basic training. And once I understood that those are the core values that I signed up to live by for the rest of my life, so you better believe if I earned that right, I would, embody those core values. And there are certain ones within there that they all mean a lot. But selfless service, when I learned, I didn't know what selfless service was, but once in basic training, they say selfless service is the act of giving your life for others without question. That's something that, again, what is a soldier? What is our mindset? We are conditioned to think outside of ourselves. The element of self doesn't apply. And so, I was able to, get through basic training. 20 years old, I got to the combat zone. I didn't leave until I was 22. I turned 21 and 22 in combat. There for 14 consecutive months in central Baghdad, Al Adamiyah, Sector 51 West with the 1st Armored Division. Our orders specifically were to secure Baghdad. They sent us to the most hostile part of Baghdad, to where Saddam Hussein was known to be and all his supporters were. So we knew upon deploying that we were about to be in some shit, excuse me, if, to speak frankly. So immediately getting from Kuwait into Iraq, it was like turning into a werewolf. I knew I had to apply every ounce of intestinal fortitude as a soldier to do my job while I was there honorably, without ever considering pivoting left or right against what is right. And so it was hard, because you can be the strongest man in the world, woman in the world, whatever. But when you lose a brother or a sister on the battlefield, you want to see a grown man cry, grown woman cry, you take one of their brothers or sisters in battle. I learned that there's no greater feeling in the world that if someone is in need, if they're in need and they're hurting, this is what war taught me. What combat taught me, there's death everywhere. But it's like, there's a lesson in here. Where can I find goodness in here? I found it in my heart, and I said to myself, I don't care what I have to do. If it means take a bullet, jump on a grenade, whatever it is, for the sake of taking care of somebody, that will be done. And I learned in war, there's no greater feeling in the world than being able to help somebody in the most desperate of times, even if it, comes at the cost of your own life. And so, I reference a lot a situation of witnessing a child die in front of me. This is a little girl who was 7 years old, casualty, took a headshot. We got her body. She still had a pulse. Me and a few other soldiers, carried her to our makeshift, med station and the police station we took over. Get her on the table, step back, has her eyes open, and praying over this child for her to die about 90 to 120 seconds later in front of us. And me and 2 other soldiers carried her body, prayed over her, and we closed her eyes. The 2 soldiers I was with broke down and crying, and I said, there's no time for that. And I chewed them out. And in my mind, I remember watching this child's eyes be closed and telling myself, this is fucked up. But I had no choice, and I told myself, I'll deal with this when I get home. And so when it was finally time to go home, a year and a half later, after going through everything we went through, again, this is not a boo-hoo story. This is a story of awareness of what veterans are not supposed to tell civilians. But for the outside world to understand what happens to us here, what's driving 22 a day is these issues. So after, my time in war and coming home, I was mad. I'm artillery. What do? The entire time we're there, we blow stuff up. We kill or be killed, kill or be killed. So the mindset changes. So when I came home, I was detached from everything. I was used to just being in war. And I thought that was okay. it took my family and friends, some urging, say, Jose, go to the VA, you need to talk to somebody. Because when you experience a trauma such as war, or you don't have to go to war to have PTSD, it's hard to get out of that, fight or flight. And, I didn't know I was depressed, but I was depressed. Thoughts of death, I was totally okay with dying. I didn't care, because again, in war, you don't have time to stop and be afraid to die. You just got to be ready to die, and take care of the mission. And if it costs your life, then that's what it's going to take. So I started realizing once I was home, there was something off. Went to the VA and they gave me my first round of pills, Zoloft, Ambien, Prozac. I didn't know what that was. I was 23. But they said, look, this is going to make you feel better. You're going to sleep better, like all these things. And I'm like, okay, well, this is, what I got to do. And sure enough, the pills made me worse. I was sleepwalking. I was like, a zombie during the day. I was even more lethargic. I was even more depressed, even more angry. Went back to the VA and they said, well, look, these are side effects. This is normal. Let's put you on something else. And I started to realize that this is the treatment for the rest of my life. And so, talk about suicide, you get to a point where, as a veteran, you have these pills and the pills aren't helping you. But outside of that, the government's got nothing else for you. They'll say, hey, try therapy, try this or that. What I try to get people to understand, a veteran, if you take my unit, we were there for 14 consecutive months. Some of us got to go home for 2 weeks. I didn't. Some of us had to stay the entire time, which is okay. I signed up for it. Again, I'm not complaining. Mm-hmm. But the traumas that we go through in combat are forever. I was there for almost 10,000 consecutive hours of just warfare. So to say that these pills are going to erase all that and numb it and you're going to be fine, it's a farce. So long story short, it took a good number of years to finally accept that I had PTSD, but it was in about 2017, when I, again, nearly ended my life, I realized that I haven't given in to the suicide and I've never pulled a trigger, never flipped the car at 90 or 100 into the barrier. It was right there. Had the pistol on my lap, man, round in the chamber, ready to go. I called my dad, because I was going to kill myself after I hung up the phone with him. And he asked me, I never forget, he's like, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I got allergies. But I was crying on the phone with my dad because I knew as soon as I hung up, I was going to blow my brains up. But whenever it came down to it, my faith in God, for whatever reason, pulled me off. And I took a step back and I realized there's over 8,000 of my brothers and sisters that are at the same line, but they can't pull themselves off it. If I'm still here and I pulled myself off it a number of times, gone through all these things is for a reason. I have to think beyond Jose. I have to apply that selfless service. I had a great career in corporate America. I was one of the number1 insurance professionals for AIG and for farmers, making six figures of $20,000, $30,000 a month. I had an M3 X5M, $250,000 house in a gated community. But guess what? I had the pistol on my lap, wanted to kill myself. I was miserable. And it was at that time that I started to really pay attention to the words of Bob Marley, for example, when he told Ziggy Marley on his deathbed, money can't buy life. What good is having all the money if inside you're sour and you're rotting? And I was able to have a conversation with God, my creator, and say, Lord, I will do whatever I have to do, whatever trial, whatever tribulation at all costs, to raise awareness to what is happening. Mm-hmm. But not only that, but to do whatever I can to reach that person that in this hour is at that fine line and is going to pull that trigger. They're going to overdose themselves on them pills. They're going to check out. What I realized every time I was at the point of killing myself, I didn't want to die. Yeah. I lost hope. And that's the saddest thing in the world is the folks who finally commit the act of committing suicide and they don't want to die. The pain is just so much, but we can't see beyond our own sorrow. And I try to equate it to some people are so in such a dark place, because I was there, that it could be the most beautiful day out. You can have the bank account, the money, But that pain and that anger and that despair in your mind is so grave that you can't even see it. So from 2017 to this day, I've done whatever I could, man, to raise awareness to ending veteran suicide and to try to help anybody that is going through similar.
Yeah, man, there is no words that can honor you that I could ever say for what you're sharing, man. It hits my heart, man, just to hear your story. And I know for a lot of people that might be something hard to hear. So just imagine what it is to live it, rather than not just even just to hear it, but to live it, to carry it. And the biggest thing, one of the biggest things that I honor you, not just for your act of service, not just for you standing for this country and doing what you signed up for, is that when you came back, you chose to lead for something that you didn't sign up for. You just knew that this is what you get to do. That stand of being selfless to bring your brothers and sisters home, that you are still on that mission. That you are
absolutely
right now.
I thank God every day for every bit of strength and every bit of pain I've gone through since coming home. I thank the Lord for it, because it's allowed to mold me into a better person. You know, we need to shift the mindset where everyone who's still here and who hasn't given in to ending their life it's a story of triumph. You know, I'm not mentally ill. I'm mentally strong. I'm still here. I'm hanging on. The thing is, the folks that are going through those rough moments, they can't see it. But I can see it. You can see it. We can see it. And if we all, you know, used our voices to pick each other up, because again, I learned this in warfare. I seen, you know, atrocities done to people there that were not okay. And I stood up and said, what you guys are doing is wrong. And that's, again, lessons I learned there. And I carry each one of those values here with me today. And I wish, you know, more people would understand that there's nothing wrong with helping someone.
Yes.
You know, if you ask me what America should be, or what America is to me, I envision an America where I want to see my neighbor prosper. I want to help my neighbor if I can help, you know, your kids go to college. Like, we should live in an environment to where every time we step a foot forward, if I have wisdom, let me share it with you. If I have a way to make a positive difference in your life, it is done. But for whatever reason, that's just not the greater mindset.
Yeah. Before we started recording, you started telling me about the initiative that we could take as leadership and the responsibility of leadership and how it even applies today during quarantine, during all this chaos going on.
Yeah. So right now, my heart is hurting. And I believe I speak for a good number of veterans. We learn a valuable lesson in leadership while in service. When you salute, you know, address your sergeants, your non-commissioned officers with respect. But that respect is because there's a trust in their leadership. Again, in war, I was able to learn so many invaluable lessons spot on leadership. You know, I had a commander who, on operations, instead of being the last man going in the raid, he was the first man going in the raid. And what that taught me, by protocol, he needs to be in the back. But he cared about his men enough that he went in first. And what that showed me in that moment was, A, I'm going to follow his ass in there and follow his lead. But two, even if it was a suicide mission, knowing we're about to die, I'm going to follow this man in there and we're going to get it together. I look for those same attributes in our government right now. What is happening right now is no different than if there was a war that was broken out. There's a death count every hour. If you really think about what's happening, every 2.5 minutes I'm seeing in New York someone's dying. The only difference is we're in the middle of a pandemic. So I'm looking again at the government. So I'm holding the president and everyone else accountable by a different set of standard as a former government employee veteran who was in a wartime scenario. I've just been waiting and praying, thinking that one day I'm going to wake up and this is going to be squared away and there's going to be leadership coming, and data and scientists explain to you people will continue to die if these measures are not implemented. And I hate to say it, but I feel that I'm witnessing our country fracturing in the middle right now, where the government is just up here and the health and welfare of everyone else is down here. I have to be honest, and that mindset isn't one of a conspiracy theorist. This is a mindset of a man who served in a wartime scenario, to where I saw firsthand leadership put themselves before their soldiers. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you 2 stories. First story I learned on how to not be a leader, and how there are people that hide behind their rank or their title that inherit powers that can save lives, but they put themselves first. First one is about a senior sergeant who always had a big mouth before he went to war, and was always braggadocious. There was an operation, there was an ambush, soldiers getting shot at left and right, soldiers looking for this sergeant. He was the platoon sergeant, the section chief. Soldiers looking for him for his lead. You know where they found him? Hiding under a Humvee. While his soldiers, he left them. So that's lesson number 1 that I learned there. Lesson number 2, we had an operation to conduct that came from our brigade to put a team on a rooftop in downtown Baghdad. Now, downtown Baghdad is a metropolis. Don't get it twisted. The buildings may not be as big, but it's a city. And so I was the lead gunner on operations, for my performance. Because again, when I gave that oath, when I graduated and earned that right to be a soldier, I knew what I had to do. So if I'm telling you something, you better believe my word is my bond. And thank God the lieutenant I had that day and I had served together on different operations, that he trusted me enough that when we were going into Baghdad, it was a middle of the afternoon, blue sky, clear as day, about 4 Humvees. I'm the lead gunner, so I'm responsible for the safety and security of everyone in my vehicle and around. One of the main things I have to do, I have to be a spotter. I have to look for enemy 24/7. So what do I see? I see 2 spotters on a rooftop in the distance. I saw them and they disappeared, gone. And I tell my lieutenant, I said, "Sir, we've been compromised. They got spotters on us. We can't go in there." Lieutenant gets on the radio, calls our battalion and says, "Listen, we got spotters. They got eyes on us. We need to abort this." Commander gets on the radio and says, "Negative. You proceed and you get, the job done." And I tell my lieutenant, he looks, I'm in the gunner's hatch and I'm looking down. I said, "Sir, we can't go in there. If we go in there, we're going to die. We cannot go in there." He gets back on the radio and he's like, "I'm not putting these guys on there. I can't." Commander gets on the radio and says, "Listen, I'll take your fucking rank. I don't care what I got to do. You get them on there. Figure it out." And Lieutenant aborted the mission. We went back to battalion. And that right there taught me a lesson in that there are people that are in command and there are operations that supersede the lives and because what ended up happening, we ended up sending Abrams in there. And there was IEDs and car bombs waiting for us. And we were in Humvees. So if that lieutenant didn't trust me enough and listen to me and listen to his superior at all costs, I wouldn't be here and neither would have my platoon probably. That gave me another lesson in that there are people that will put their careers above the safety and the security of others. And that, lieutenant got his ass shoot out, but he valued my life, the life of his men, enough to go against command. Well, what happened with the Navy? You had a commander who wrote a letter saying, "We're not at war. Sailors don't deserve to die. They're infected with COVID-19. Help us." Donald Trump fired this career officer, 28 years, I believe, honorable service. I saw a video when he was walking off his ship, all his sailors cheering for him. What I'm seeing is horrific, man. If this officer, if this commander of this Navy ship did not write that letter, those sailors would be infected right now. So he put the safety and the security of his sailors, health and welfare out there, and his job was taken from him. So again, what I am seeing is just such a fracture with our government. It's just, it's not okay, man.
Yeah, man.
And it's not political. That's the biggest thing. Excuse me, I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
The biggest thing right now is that politics and what is happening right now, when we're talking about people dying, politics has no place in this conversation right now. That is, I think, the most abhorrent thing about how COVID-19 is being handled within our country.
Mm-hmm.
That somehow politics is being allowed to derail action.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not okay.
Yeah.
The heartbreak that I experience is that there's no reason. There's another lesson from combat. When they killed Lieutenant Salton and Moore, my best friend, I had an amazing commander and first sergeant. My commander was a Ranger, and my first sergeant was, 6'8", 300 pounds, a beast of a man. When our guys got killed, I never in my life thought I would see either of these two men cry. Again, these were my leaders. That gave me a sense of, it taught me a lesson that there's nothing wrong with showing compassion no matter how badass you are. It doesn't cost anything. Mm-hmm. And so when I look at the president, every day I've been waiting for him on his own to pop up on social media and have a conversation with the American people, an open dialogue, sleeves rolled up, and say and show empathy. Mm-hmm. and show it's okay to be hurting right now, but we can do this together. There's so much more that can be done. And again, it's like, why not? Yeah. You don't have to have a task force briefing once a day with the media to address what is really happening. There are families that right now are destroyed in real time. And it doesn't cost this man, who again, he's the leader of our country, to be human. Mm-hmm. And that's, again, because I learned that in warfare. There's nothing wrong with being human. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. I think it's a lot that we can be reflecting right now. I believe it's okay to expect that from our leadership. I think that's fair enough. It's not unfair to expect that our lives are being taken care of, just the way that your commanding officer has taken care of you, and how you continuously can take care of other people. And it's really been an honor, man, to see your journey and the ways that you carry yourself and the support that you bring, and the fight that you continue to fight, and you do it double time, triple time, man, because it's not like a be all said, done, cool, I'm healed, let's go. It's a consistent battle that you confront, and you still have that bandwidth to take care of yourself, take care of your reality, your family, your home, and at the same time stand for those names that you don't quite know yet. I'm really a big fan about this stuff. To everyone listening, there's several ways, or different ways, I think, outlets on how you could get involved, how you could be of service to your community, and how you could also partner with Jose in making the difference. As he mentioned, are 22 lives a day, and that's veterans, right? And everything going on right now in the world, there are people who are confronted with suicide, who are confronted with PTSD, who are confronted with this hardship, and outside of being veterans who are in need of help right now. And Jose, I honor you so much for being on that front line to take care of those people when you don't have to, bro.
Oh no, it's an honor, man. I tell you, I've attended funerals of veterans, that committed suicide. I spent time with moms. We need to understand that when there's a life lost to suicide, there's a ripple effect, and it has to stop. And again, with COVID-19 and the quarantining, the veterans, we were already on track to lose 8,000 veterans this year to suicide before COVID-19. But what you have now is those same veterans who, before all this, are now stuck in their house. You have a new set of people that, are struggling and can't leave the homes. But now you have folks that can't go to, think of, AA, think of people that, needed that drive every day or whatever the case may be, and they're stuck in their homes. I'm seeing that child abuse is increasing, abuse, like all these negatives are going on. I always remember Gandhi, one of my favorite quotes, "You must be the change you wish to see in the world." We have to speak. Yeah. I have to speak. You have to speak. Because if we don't, I don't know what's going to be left.
Yeah, man. So this video are put together to, again, tell the stories and hear what occurs in your world, to, one, further understand you, but to understand your mission and what stuff you're creating. And for the people at home who are listening, who are finding themselves not knowing what to do with their time or space or energy, what would your message be in leadership to those people?
My message would be, don't be afraid to accept your pain, to own it and face it every day, because ultimately, if we believe that each one of our stories is a story of triumph and a story of inspiration, we can inspire each other. Yeah. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. Like all those emotions that I think have been stigmatized, to push away. Embrace your pain. It's yours. You lived it, but you don't have to live it tomorrow. And understand, by making that choice, you're putting that other person who can't make that choice feel secure in making that choice. So do whatever you can to live a life of selflessness. I think that if we flip the mindset from selfish to selfless, just switch the ends, selfless. No one's perfect. You don't have to be perfect. A lot of people, I think, get lost in trying to be perfect, but understand we're perfect in our imperfections, because our imperfections allow us to learn.
Yes.
If we fail, don't be afraid or ashamed of failing. Understand that within that failure, there's a lesson as to why you did. And so, just pick up the phone, text somebody, check in, and reach out to me. I touch base with folks left and right, and there's an opportunity for us to engage with each other because there's so many of us hurting. So use social media as a platform to put love out, put positivity, and just spread the word.
Yeah, absolutely, man. For the people who are experiencing whatever level of hardship that you have come across, whether it's related to COVID-19 with how it personally has touched your home, to depression, to hard times and struggles, to illness, to medical conditions, let's not run away from that, right? That pain, if we can funnel it, we could use it to transform it into purpose and really go. Yeah, and to pay that forward to people. There are so many people right now in need of exponential help, professional help, support that people like Jose provides. And at the same time, people who just need that company, and people who just need that mental connection and support. And that's well within our power right now to be able to contributing. So Jose, where can people find you? Where can people read more about this and see how they can get involved or donate or all that good stuff?
Absolutely. So my wife and I, we started a small organization called Mission Zero that's dedicated to ending veteran suicide. And if you want to reach out, send me an email directly, jose@missionzero.us. Very simple, jose@missionzero.us. Go to our Facebook, Mission Zero Actual, and understand that it doesn't cost anything to make a difference in somebody's life. Feel free to reach out.
Jose, I can't thank you enough again, man, for your story. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your presence and your continued work that you do. Again, man, you have a partner here, bro, that I want to support you. You know, I want to support.
100%. Likewise, man. We're in this together, and we'll get through this.
Yeah,
We'll get through it, and we'll get through it together, man.
absolutely. All right, guys. So for everyone tuning in, make sure to check into more incredible people, incredible stories, doing incredible things on Say It Loud. Thank you again to everyone who's been listening in. Radiate this out, share these messages. There's support and just a stem of connection that we could be making to make the difference to the people who we might not be able to reach alone, but together we could get right in there and make the difference that's needed. So thank you guys again. We will be tuning in to more episodes coming soon. Much love, guys.